Well, good morning, everybody. It's 10 a.m. Welcome to the next in our 2025 Masterclass series entitled today, Physical Harassment of Realtors is Real. Are You Prepared? Again, before we get down to business, a couple of quick housekeeping items. Please make sure that your video and audio are muted. Sometimes we see some folks on screen who shouldn't be there. The only ones you should see on the screen are our guest and myself. We have a chat button down the bottom. If you have a particular question that you want to ask about presented today, just hit that chat button, pop it in there, and I'll pick it up and we'll be able to pose that question. And again, a reminder, given that our audience is realtors, I know many of you get called away on late minute interruptions as the Zoom program is taking place. We do record these programs. We will post this particular presentation to our YouTube channel this afternoon, and you will receive a link advising accordingly that you'll be able to see the program on our YouTube channel. Look for that this afternoon. Check your spam folder as well. Sometimes those announcements go into that nasty file. So why today's program? Just a reprise. Physical vulnerability for realtors is seldom addressed out in the open, yet the risk is real and palpable, particularly in the current environment where crime against the innocent occurs or occupies the daily headlines. In this important program today, we've secured the expertise and wisdom of one of the country's leading experts on crime against realtors, a man whose own realtor mother lost her life at the hands of a couple posing as clients. As an NAR expert, he'll outline the risks, detail the safeguards, and provide a proven prescription that realtors can employ to remain safe and secure as they practice their important craft. Now, our presenter today is Carl Carter Jr. He's a realtor and a founder of the Beverly Carter Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the safety of real estate professionals. Carl's mum, a realtor, Beverly Carter, lost her life at the hands of a couple posing as clients in 2014. His mum was targeted because she was perceived as a rich broker who worked alone. Since his mother's passing, Carl has dedicated as much time as possible to spreading the message of safety through facilitating hundreds of courses in person across the United States and Canada and virtually across the world. He has Master and Bachelor of Business Administration degrees from the University of Arkansas in Little Rock and an Executive Master's in Public Service from the Clinton School of Public Service. Carl, I want to welcome you and thank you very much for giving us some of your valuable time today. Just to sort of kick it off, let's get the stats out of the way. I looked at the stats that I sort of picked up off Google and it turned my white hair even whiter. Are there any sort of headline stats that you would want to lay out to sort of set the scene today?
Sure. And at the risk of sounding, quite selfish, the stat that I live with every single day is that the loss of my sweet mom that was just, doing as we all do, the job that she loved, and she was taken. But, when our best source of just getting a pulse of safety within this great industry that we all work in is NAR's annual safety survey, and you published some of those stats, ahead of our session today. But something that's been very consistent for the past few years is that we see the respondents, 73% of them saying that they have, over the past year, experienced a situation that made them fear for their personal safety. And, within those instances of the 73%, over half of those are experienced during an open house. And, as I've had the opportunity to talk to agents across the United States, that is a consistent response. Maybe an agent wouldn't say that they've feared, would choose that word, but they certainly can relate to the uneasiness of sitting at an open house, alone, and especially in vacant properties. Um, so that's always really top of mind for me because I think that so many of us can relate to that as uneasiness.
Carl, just let me interrupt there. Def- define what that uneasiness is. I understand it's a perception, it's a feeling, but if you were an agent and this uneasiness creeps over you, what does that feel like? What signals are you picking up?
I think it can manifest in a few ways. One, it's just that guttural worry that really is very cerebral in nature just because you have this realization that anyone could walk in off the street and view it as an opportunity to steal or cause other types of crimes and harm. Um, but then I think that there's something that is a lot harder to define, and we hear it called a lot of different things. It's that I call it the spidey sense, that internal instinct that we all have, just that something could potentially, go wrong. Something doesn't, I don't feel as safe as I would like to feel in this moment.
You're passionate about this whole issue as a realtor and because of your mom. Talk to me about your mom's incident and why that's made you so passionate about this issue.
Sure, I have to tell you all that I absolutely adored my mom. She was my very, very best friend. My mom had me, she was very, very young. My mom was 16 years old when I was born. And in a lot of ways, we grew up together, went to college together, and just really close. And I saw how hard she worked in the industry and how much she loved real estate and how much her clients loved her. And um, after being in the industry for about a dozen years, my precious mom began to hear from a couple that their story was that they had relocated to the area in which we live from out of state. They had relocated due to work, and they were seeking to purchase a property, and they were already in the area staying in a rental and really wanted to get into a permanent residence as soon as possible. And they were cash buyers. They each spoke to my mom on the phone. They were each texting my mom as part of getting to know them and assessing what they were looking for in properties. Mom obtained their email addresses, and as we all do, she went to the MLS and started setting them up for notifications. And um, as she was working with this couple, yeah, I do think it's important to call out though that although there were emails and phone calls and text messages, there had never been an in-person meeting. It was just a couple weeks of just this back and forth. And this couple, they were not um, of the properties that my mom was sending them, there was really none that they were interested in to even go see, to tour. And so, my sweet mom, she did, as we all do every day, started outreaching to agents within her brokerage and letting them know of this couple and, asking that, if anyone knows of anything that's going to hit the market, please let me know. And um, and so on it went, and when my mom went missing, it really added to the complexity of the situation because it was as if every agent in my mom's office, knew of this couple that my mom was working so hard to serve. And really, I think that it adds to the tragedy because she was working so hard for these people, not realizing that what was coming across as this couple that's very selective, and not wanting to tour property, unless they just really liked it, um, was not really that. It was a couple that knew that once they got her to a property to show them that they wanted to, their plan was to kidnap her and to hold her for ransom because of this perceived wealth. And they were this plan that they had devised. They would, get all of this perceived money from my dad, and they perceived my mom to be so wealthy, and this is their words, that they would get enough ransom money to never have to work again. And so what was appearing to be just this selective buyer was actually a criminal that knew they only had one chance. And so they were waiting for the right property that would be the perfect crime scene, that was just far enough away from neighbors, vacant. And so, as my mom, continued down this path of trying to find them a home and working with them. She had no idea that, of course, of their motives, but that they had built this perception of her wealth solely based upon publicly available information. And this is, especially for all of us in this industry, there are things that people could obtain just as easily on any of us. And so evidence was found on this couple's laptop that they had gone to Google and they had searched for her. And they had gone to her social media, her Facebook page, and her page was 100% wide open, publicly accessible, as many of ours are, because we want to be, accessible to our community and those we have the opportunity to serve. And then lastly, this couple knew to go online to county property records to determine where my mom lived and also the value of the home that my mom lived in. And so it's believed, just based solely upon that and real estate marketing, that my mom, was perceived to be so wealthy. And I'm sure everyone on this session can relate to, what it's like. Many of our friends will kind of poke at us, right, about, oh, it must be great to be in real estate and just, drive around town and cash checks all day. And while I hope that is the case for you, uh, that perception absolutely extends into the broader public. It's why we see such an entrance into this industry, is because of this perception that we are all wildly wealthy. So um, ultimately, this couple outreached to my mom with a request to see a very specific property, and it was the husband that called my mom. And we know the call occurred, but we only know about what was said based upon uh, the interrogation process with the bad guy, as I call him, the husband. And he said that whenever he called my mom with the request to see this particular house, that she expressed hesitancy and immediately told him that, she was sorry, but that she was not going to be available to show him that property due to a company policy that prohibited her from showing property in a rural area alone. And it's a very interesting and really a good safety tip, I think, because there was no policy like that in place at my mom's brokerage. But it was a great way to, I think, put that, sorry, I wish I could, however, can't. Um, and but what my mom didn't anticipate was that the husband was sitting next to his wife, and he handed the phone immediately to his wife. And she told my mom that she would be coming straight from work to this showing and would be present at the showing, and asked if mom's company would be okay if it's the three of them at the showing. And for my mom, and I think for many of us, it becomes a very different feeling situation. Many of us do not, associate the threat of crime, and certainly not violent crime, with females. And uh, so my sweet mom agreed to show them that home, and it was late September, and this home sat on a half an acre lot. It was lakefront. The It was a good distance from neighbors. It had no utilities. This house had been sitting vacant for many, many years, and there had been issues of squatters and theft and vandalism. And so my mom, uh, as she set this appointment with them for 6 p.m., she warned them of the state of this home and that she would not be able to show them the property any later than 6 p.m. Quite frankly, for their safety, so that they would be able to see the house in the daylight. And that day came. It was Thursday, September 25th, and we know that um, that day, mom had that afternoon she had touched base with my dad to let him know that she was going to show that property to that couple. Told him because it was within my parents' community in which they lived, so dad knew exactly which house she'd be showing. Um, we know that after she told him that she would be showing that house, that she said, well, I'll pick up dinner on the way home. And it was like a Thursday in real estate, like so many Thursdays before. It just was, a later showing, picking up dinner to go. And we know my mom got to that property early, and right at the appointment time, a black car pulled in next to her, and out came a white male with short dark hair, and approached my mom. It was the husband, and he began in with the apologies that his wife had gotten caught up at work and would not be able to make the showing that day. And um, but had a request, and that is because this house was so poorly represented online. The photos were just absolutely terrible. Would mom be so kind to not only proceed with this showing, but to take photos of the property, text them to the wife, and be available throughout the showing to answer any questions via text that the wife may have. And it would be as if the wife was on this showing in like a virtual capacity. And I mentioned earlier that feeling, that instinct, that spidey sense, that burning in your gut, that when our when our bodies are telling us that something's not quite right. And I just can't help but feel like my mom probably was experiencing that, because suddenly there she is at this home, and things are changing right at the last minute. Um, my mom was um, very sweet, precious, beautiful lady, and she agreed to proceed with showing the home. And she took the pictures and answered the questions that the wife had. And as many of you are probably thinking right now, when we talk about safety tips, and one easy one is to keep our faces out of our phones and not be distracted. And this couple and this plan with these photos was really it really was a method to distract my sweet mom. Um,
Carl, were they? I assume they were caught and punished.
once mom was taken at this showing, she ultimately ended up. They took her to their home, and their plan unraveled very, very quickly. And due to the panic that set in, and they made the horrible choice to, instead of letting my mom go, to end her life. And it was through the work of 26 amazing investigators, and that worked day in, day out for 5 days, trying to find my mom. And I can't even tell you like the number of real estate agents that even came in from out of state to help in the search over these 5 days that my mom was missing. Uh, but ultimately, she was found and laid to rest. And my dad continues to struggle to this day, navigating life without her. But there was justice, at least in some sort of sense of the word, in that they're both husband and wife are in prison. The husband is in for life without the possibility of parole and for capital murder. And unfortunately, the wife has a lighter sentence and she will be eligible for parole after serving 21 years. But I'm thankful that they are at least off the streets and not able to harm anyone else. Um, and so, that was just over 10 years ago, and it all played out very publicly. And through that and through conversations that happened with agents that started as this beautiful gesture of support and love, and would typically be followed by that agent sharing with me a way that they had been victimized. And uh, out of hearing story after story for a couple of years, I really felt um, a fire in me to do anything that I could do to just bring awareness of ways that we can stay safe, to shake off complacency, and that journey has led me here to be with you all today.
Well, we're going to talk about the foundation you set up, and we're going to get into specifics as to what agents should be alerted to. But the one insight that I got out of your your story just now is that this was not an impulse. One sort of thinks that these are impulse crimes. There was no impulse about this. This was planned over a period of time. I mean, they thought this through. Is that representative of this sort of action on the part of people who commit these crimes, or is it impulse driven, or both?
What we see from um, in cases where it goes really horrifically, like homicide, those they are typically, more planned. But when we look at total incidences that occur within the industry, typically they are crimes of opportunity. It is a passerby, and they see, oh, this is an opportunity for me to pop in here and do this bad deed.
I don't want to be tawdry here, but you're dealing with a neophyte, so I'm trying to understand this myself as I'm talking to you. The litany of criminal actions that can take place here. The worst case scenario is what happened to your mom. What other criminal acts take place within this realtor environment? Is it theft? Is it damage? Is it graffiti? I mean, what are the range of incidents that get encompassed here?
So, we have, and I somewhat alluded to this when we first started today, we have a challenge within our industry because so many of us are independent contractors. And so there's not this industry-wide reports of incidents that we can draw upon. And so often it becomes, kind of anecdotal, what you're hearing, what you're seeing, what's getting picked up in the news cycle. Um, I will tell you from my experience and conversations that I've had with agents, there are um, a an alarming amount of crimes against female agents, and it is in form of stalking, harassment, online harassment, even, having this nonprofit that has my mother's name in it, Beverly Carter Foundation. My mom's that that the nonprofit's social media is targeted by these vile people that are, seeking to either just offend and be mean and thinking that this is a female that they can speak to that way, or, target in, whether it's financial or sexual in nature, but repeatedly, I mean, nothing else comes close to the
Just
type.
straight trolling, just trolling.
Just awful, awful people. Um, and then, it does not go. I mean, when I hear from state and, or even just associations smaller in scale, so often it will come down to issues of female agents being stalked, and these stalkers, these disturbed, very disturbed men will, if they're not successful with one agent in the market, they'll go to another. And so that is really where I see, alternatively, and it's always interesting, I think, to talk to agents about this. Theft is a major problem of folks coming through, and so we have to have these conversations with our sellers about putting away firearms, medications, and jewelry, and but that is something that doesn't get talked about much, because if our client misses putting something away, or we miss having that conversation with them and things coming up missing, that isn't something obviously that's going to be reported, but is a significant issue that I hear about.
So there is a definite element of theft involved in some of these incidents.
Oh, 100%. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Quickly on the foundation, and then I want to get into some how-tos. Carl, the foundation was set up, I think you said 10 years ago now,
We're coming up on 10 years, so yes.
and its primary function is to.
We are based in raising awareness and providing education on proactive ways to remain safe, while working alone, working in lone worker industries like real estate.
If a viewer today, and we get a lot of views on our YouTube channel, so if somebody sees this program today and says, I think I need to talk to my managing broker about bringing a program in here, to educate our realtors, is that possible through the foundation? Well, how does
Absolutely.
the foundation work?
Yes, so we have a network of instructors that all of us are volunteer based, and so we volunteer our time to talk about safety in general, or to talk about specific things, especially like to the point that you just that scenario. The We're often asked, we could do more in our specific office, our brokerage. And so how do we begin, down this path of having, whether that's setting up a committee or having safety conversations that are meaningful, and not scaring people. So yeah, that's all classes, curriculum, safety based. We have instructors that are happy to step in and help.
And just a simple Google search to the Beverly Carter Foundation will pull you up,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If I was to do a program with a media celebrity, I'll get 500 people signing up. On a subject such as personal safety, it's as if people are whistling past the graveyard, pardon the analogy. Why is that? Why are we scared to think about this and be prepared for this? What's the psychology holding these realtors back?
Well, yeah, so I think of it in two ways, because it's something that I see often. We'll offer a safety class, and attendance is not, like to your point, nearly what it would be with another topic. And I think it's for a couple of reasons. One is that so often when we talk about proactive ways to be safe, someone is going to tell us things that we already know. It doesn't mean we're doing them. And, it doesn't mean that we haven't gotten complacent over the past few months or years. But so often you're getting back to these basics of things that we were taught in grade school. And none of us, like in this busy, fast-paced world, want someone to tell us something we already know. So I can totally relate to folks and feeling that. And then, maybe even more than that, there is a a very uncomfortable part of safety training that if effective happens to each of us. If we are going to make change, then we have to realize that there is a need to make change. And part of that is this fundamental, very uncomfortable truth that there are people in this world that would seek or that do seek to do individuals like us in our industry harm. And that we it's not that we want that to happen to other people, right? But we hear on every crime show, right, that shouldn't happen to me. I always thought that happened to other people. Those types of things never happen in our sleepy little town. And it's because we, in so many ways, we kind of isolate ourselves and we don't want to accept, because especially with this relating to our job, this is what we do. This is what we love to do. This is our livelihood. And so, coming to terms with the fact that there are people that, even though we're doing everything right and we are just earning a living for our families, that people would try to take that from us or to harm us. It is uncomfortable, and I get that. So I won't belabor the point anymore, but I experience it
Well,
and see it a lot.
let me stay with this, Carl. And I want to get into some nitty gritty now. I'm an agent. It's an open house. There's one person there, nobody else around. That feeling. How does one pick that up? Is it language? Is it odd behavior? Is it the time of day? Is it the questions that are being? What? When should the hairs? When do the hairs on the back of your neck go up?
So many times whenever, we hear victims speak, es- especially agents that were attacked within a home, is there were warning signs that are especially noticed in hindsight related to the person's mannerisms, seeming fidgety, not uh, being focused on the actual home itself, but putting their focus more on the agent and asking the agent questions about themselves, rather than the home. Um, and then there are um, instances where agents have said that as these individuals kind of followed them around, that there was um, seemingly just this uh, way that they were trying to trap that agent into a room, or to get them kind of enclosed in a space where they couldn't get away. Um, but sometimes it's just smaller ways. I mean, I know we can all relate to just sometimes you don't know why, but suddenly just kind of the hair on your neck just kind of stands up, and it's like something just doesn't seem right here.
Doesn't feel right.
And we don't, and so often we override that because we're like, oh, I'm just being paranoid. I'm going to look so rude if I just, run out of this house. Um, but in so many of the situations, the agents have expressed that they felt that feeling in their gut that
Carl,
something.
stay with that. So I've just got that feeling that those hairs on the back of something doesn't feel right. What do I do immediately? Do I head outside? Do I pick up the phone and fake a call? What do I do that very moment? Because that's a
It,
split decision moment.
yes. So in that moment is, you hear so often, um, to move the X, and when the X representing where this potential, criminal would commit this crime, and by moving that X, it throws their plan. And so, top advice is to get out of there, get outside. However, if there are other things, if that just isn't an option. And so, I've learned from talking to agents about, the less, maybe less aggressive ways of handling it. And so, to your point about, faking a phone call or making references to the fact that a colleague was on their way and about to be there. Another way that I find very interesting approach is that reminding the this person, this home, that the to be careful of the things they say and do, because the seller has, these devices, whether that's, through Amazon or otherwise, that we all have all of these
Ring,
devices that are
etc. Yeah.
recording. And so suddenly, that can put this person on high alert that if they were to try anything, there will be evidence of that. And I think that that's a very it's something that we're used to saying anyway, as we tour properties with our buyers. But it can be a way, I think, of adding accountability, because, and I go back to my mom's situation. These bad people kept going down this path of trying to get her to the point of kidnapping her, because at every step they were able to remain their anonymity. They'd given fake names and email addresses containing those fake names created solely for the purpose of deceiving her. They had downloaded an app that gave them spoof numbers so mom wouldn't know their real phone numbers. And so, at every step, if we can peel back and add, that anonymity and get some accountability in there, I think that
But
it
but the
reduces
primary
violence.
rule though, but the primary rule is get your butt out of there, right? Get out of the home.
100%. 100%.
Let's get into you offer a lot of online resources. One of them is an open house safety checklist, so I'm told. Let's go through that checklist. Let's be specific here.
Sure. So when I think about, open houses, and safety and preparation, I think of it really in three ways. So, things that we can do before it, um, and, during it, and then things that we do after it. And so there are a number of things that, for open houses, that can be done before it even begins. And, I will always be, you know, a, a proponent of having someone at that open house with you. There's, safety in numbers, and, in so many, parts of the country that I've been, there are, affiliates that, or new agents, that are willing to come and, be a buddy. And sometimes that can be kind of a reciprocal, opportunity. I think other ways to include others, if that having a second person there with you just isn't an option, and would be to, you could stop by, the neighbors, meet the neighbors, and say, "Hey, I'm going to be here for a couple of hours," and you don't have to have it be,
That's a
this
great idea.
spooky, yeah, like, "Hey, will you just, I'm telling you this for my own personal safety necessarily," but just say, "Hey, I'm going to be over here. Apologize for, if there's a little bit extra, traffic, but I'll be wrapping up at 4 p.m. and, uh, feel free to pop in, those types of things. Also heard of agents. I've never done this personally, but that will go over, and prior to the open house and introduce themselves at local either police station or fire station. And, if you've got a tray of cookies that you're taking to the open house, pop in, either, give them some cookies as you're introducing yourself and or tell them, please come by. I'm gonna be stuck with all these cookies
Right.
and
As you're driving by, stop in and say hello.
stay low. And then it educates you on exactly where those facilities are as you talk about the properties to to potential buyers. Just say, hey, just around the block is so it's a good value add all the way around. I think so. Those are a couple of ways I think prior to that are really good tips for all of us.
Carl,
Um,
what about the physical property itself? The lights, the doors, the gates. What take me inside? Because most agents arrive, I mean, I hate to say this, a lot, not most, a lot of agents will arrive 5 minutes before, run around, scurrying around. I've seen it happen. And they're not paying attention to safety issues.
Right. Well, and that's a very important topic in and of itself, right? There's just so much to be said for not only open houses, but property tours in general. Just getting there early, assessing. Um, and through that assessment, to your point, it is making sure that the property is secure going into it. And then you're going to do the same thing whenever you come out, because we've heard of instances where um, people will tour a home at an open house and they will unlock windows so that they can come back later and steal.
I'll be damned.
And so it's that, okay, I'm going into this. Is everything secure from, doors, windows locked? Do I know my exit routes? Like where can, I come in or go out if needed? Um, and, different agents have, different ways that they approach the exit strategy. Some really want that the house, all doors to remain, dead bolted and very secure, very locked up. But others will, as part of that exit strategy, have make sure that maybe it's only one lock or no lock. Some agents will go as far as keeping that entire home on lockdown and only allowing one client in at a time. And so there is just this very regimented, um, for approach to letting folks in. And before they come in, having there at the door that sign in sheet and requiring that identification be provided so that you can verify that the name that they're signing on that sheet. Or putting in an app. I know there are a lot of ways we can check in for open houses, but that again adds that accountability for who's coming in that property.
Are you recommending, by the way, no open houses in the evening, if
Um,
possible?
so I think that it is, well, let me go back. I've read studies and multiple studies that victimization for real estate agents actually occurs during the day at a
Okay.
higher incident but I think that also could be because of just the frequency in which we work, right? There's the volume there. Uh, but I certainly would would support keeping it to as just because things during the day, right? It's just visibility. But I mean, as in my mom's case, although she was very much pushing for daylight, and there were just unfortunately other risks at play.
Is it fair to say, if in the evening, take a colleague, if
Absolutely,
possible? Absolutely.
absolutely.
Go back to profile for just a moment. The profile of a person who commits a crime against a realtor, I assume it's not in order of priority. It's sexual predation. It's theft. It's certainly stalking. It's some form of psychotic behavior. Am I profiling correctly?
You are. I think that there is another piece. I mean, that mental illness is kind of the underlying current, but many instances of victimization are financial in nature, and where we see that, just a couple of years ago, just right in the center of the pandemic, we saw just there were six male agents that were killed within 1 year, and they were, landlord kind of mentality that this person is coming, they're collecting rent from me, and they're raising the rent, and so the mental illness was kind of heightened by this financial pressures, and so we saw, just so many related to not even necessarily like I'm going to harm you so that I can take your money, but I perceive you to be, as a property manager, to
Right.
be this evil entity that I need to unfortunately kill.
Which is what happened to that operative with the United Healthcare who was killed in the
Oh,
street. And
yes.
that was similar. Sheila just raised a point. She says she brings her German Shepherd. I don't know if she was being facetious or if that's the reality. But the thought had occurred to me too, assuming the seller would permit an animal in the house, could one bring a dog?
Oh, whether, Sheila actually does that or not, but there are agents that 100% that do that, that's their, and they find it to be not only comforting but also highly effective. So good for Sheila and her buddy.
All right. Well, time is just flying by here. I want to, first of all, I want to talk about the app. You said that there's an app that a realtor can put on their phone. That app does, what is it and what does it do?
Yeah, so there are lots of apps. But an app that I'm particularly excited about, and I've been excited to see the success that they've had within the real estate space. Many of you probably already use it. It's called Forewarn, and it is somewhat simplistic.
Forewarn, forewarn.
Yes, yes, sir. That's right. Um, and it is simply, you can take a phone number and do a reverse lookup. And so if you get a call from someone, and you can use it as one of the methods to verify that the name that they're giving you matches the phone that they're calling from. It pulls back a lot of information,
Such as,
from such as their criminal history, any bankruptcies, financial in
wow.
nature like that. We'll give you past vehicle and home records. And so agents use it and love it. There have been a number of stories that have come out that the agent felt like it at least tipped them off that, maybe this person has, a history of crimes related, like to assault. And so they it may not mean that they don't work with that person, but they can go in kind of eyes wide open on, potential risk. So I think it's such a great app, and we can use it in uh, not only that verification piece, but if you all are like I am, like we're plagued with these calls from spoof numbers. And so often it's a big call center, and it's, the telemarketing. And so in those situations, by just a quick run of those phone numbers they're calling, you can even see, was this a real person? Is this someone that maybe I need to call back because it's a potential lead? And it will come back, if it comes back no results found, that's your indication that it is most likely a spoof number. So you just hear of agents, myself included, that have found it to be not only a safety tool but a productivity tool, in managing our business. So really excited
Is
about
that
that
is that
one.
a, is that a free app?
It's not, and you must be a licensed agent. But most, so I would um, check to see if you have it as a benefit through your association or even your state association.
Right.
Many associations uh, at the state level have opted to cover it as a part of your membership, and agents just don't know it. So but it's fantastic. I can't say enough good things about it.
Carl, male versus female. In the back of my mind, I've sort of seen this problem as a female problem, but I'm thinking, based on the numbers, that's not the case. Men have to be careful as well. Yes. And
Oh,
do the same incidents and rules apply to males as they do to females?
they do, and I see it in that even like I'm not a burly, brawny guy, but I can see, even within myself, like there's just this, well, these risks primarily, like women are going to be the ones that are targeted most often,
Right.
and it's just simply not true, especially for many of the reasons that agents are targeted, which have to do with this perception of wealth that we talked about. Um, but uh, so much of the focus, understandably, is placed on females, and it's for several reasons. Has nothing necessarily to do with physical stature and strength, but we are a female-dominated industry, and then to the point of we are in many ways public figures within our community. And so, back to the point of this online presence and how incredibly tough it must be to be a female in this digital age. Um, but just as I was saying with those 6 men that we lost just in that one year, it very much applies to us guys, and certainly don't none of us need to say, oh, well, I got this, I'm good, or to put all of our personal safety into one specific thing, like, oh, I'm a big tall guy, or I have a singular solution. It always makes me nervous when I hear people say, oh, I've got mace, or I've got a firearm, or I've got, and all those are tools, right? But just like Miss Sheila, like she has her pup, and that is a very valuable tool, very effective, I'm sure, but it's not a catch-all. And so, really, all of us need to be thinking about safety in many, many facets.
Should we? We've got 5 minutes left here, Carl. I want to cut. Should we be carrying mace or something self-protective of that type? I'm not saying guns. I'm not a big believer in that.
So, here's where I'm coming from with it. I like to say yes and no. And don't you love when people talk about both sides of their mouth? I say no because if you are in a situation where you are so afraid of this person that you're going to pull out your mace and spray them in the eyes, then whoa, you are in big
Yeah,
trouble.
get out of there.
Um, but there's this part of me that's like, I like it when I think it is a reminder that when you look in your purse and you see that mace, that you're like, that is
Mm,
there because I need to be mindful of my personal
right.
safety, not because you're going to be, this quick draw wild wild west with your mace, because I don't trust that any of us we are going to freeze, or just the situation presenting itself for that is it just seems highly
Gotcha.
unlikely. But I do love that physical reminder. Like, this is there because I need to be mindful of my safety.
Sheila says always walk behind the client, never in front. Correct?
So true. I didn't tell you all that the bad guy in my mom's situation, he was able to get himself positioned behind her, and he caught her off guard with a taser in her side. And so I absolutely, Sheila, I'm really glad you brought
Always.
that up.
I just got an insight from you that I never thought about before, but very briefly, when you think about realtors, they all drive good cars. I mean, in the Bay Area, it's all Mercedes and BMWs. They're very well dressed. They're articulate. They're charismatic. That says to somebody, hey, this person's got money or this person's got access to. I never thought about that before, but that's what we communicate. Carl, in the couple of minutes we've got left, give me the top 5 rules. You're talking to me now as a realtor who's not paying attention. Okay. What are the 5 that I take away today? Actionable rules.
So one is to look at your processes for verifying your client's identity and make sure that they're effective and that they're consistent, not that you're not just doing it even if it's unintentionally profiling certain types of people, that you're doing it for every single person and documenting that. I think that the next step is to build a digital network of whether that's other agents or your family, that you go into these fancy phones that we have and you enable, whether that's GPS tracking or sharing of your calendar, and keep your calendar updated with where you're going and who you're going to be with. We could have a whole other session on that type of integration, that it is so meaningful, so important. And then a third thing, somewhat related, is to build a have that quick but tough conversation to say, hey, partner or kid or neighbor or broker, I want us to come up with either a code word, or I can send you a specific emoji, and you know that if you get that whatever it is emoji from
I'm in
me, that
trouble.
it is a very simple way to say, I'm in distress, and because of step 2, you've got my location, please come. um, and so I think that, those 3 are vital tips. Um, and I would add, just it may not be a tip, but I hope that it's something that everyone will take inventory of, with this session, and that is to, do it today and do it every day. That, one, you for yourself, need to be well and safe, but you are surrounded by your family and your friends and your loved ones. And so, if not only for yourself, I mean, just, as my family's navigating life without our matriarch, I just hope that you will take inventory of all those precious people that need you to come home safely every day.
Thank you, Carl. We've been talking with Carl Carter Jr., and I would encourage you to go to the Beverly Carter Foundation. Just Google Beverly Carter Foundation. That'll pull up everything that Carl has talked about today as a reminder. We will post this recording to our YouTube channel today. We normally get 100 to 200 views after one of our programs. Let's double that.
Can't hear you.
How about now?
Yes.
Um, I don't know how much we lost here, but the point was, if you liked what you heard today, pick up the recording, the link today to the recording on the YouTube channel, and spread it around the office. Spread it to your realtor friends as well. Pick up additional information from the Beverly Carter Foundation. Just Google it, and there'll be a reprise of much of what was discussed today. Carl, I want to thank you for giving us valuable time. This is one of the most valuable sessions that we've hosted for a long, long time. And I appreciate your time. I appreciate your candor, your advice, and your honesty as well. And thank you, sir, for doing what you will. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned. We wish you great selling. Let's get out there and close some properties today and do it safely, please. Thank you. Bye, you all.
Bye.